the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another week of Study Al-Islam. It is so nice to share this precious time with each of you. But before we begin, let us open in prayer with Imam Mikhail Shabazz from Portland. Brother Imam, would you please open us up in prayer? Take yourself off.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Thank you, Brother Imam.
آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you, Brother Imam. So last week, the segment was on all about business. You learned about external fundraising, capacity building, and grant writing. That recording is in the newsletter that came out this morning. This week, the segment is on our community, our responsibility, where you will learn more about the good work being performed in our national community. The state that we're spotlighting today is California. Now, we know there are many more organizations in California performing good work. This is just to give you a glimpse and share the possibilities and good ideas of the work being performed around this nation. Before we get started with our first speaker, who is Brother Jihad Mustafa from Oakland, California, I want to give Imam Abu Qadir. Brother Imam Abu, why don't you just take a moment or two just to greet the believers, since you are the Imam. Brother Imam Abu, are you in San Francisco? Okay, maybe he is not with us. Okay, so Brother Imam Abu Qadir, are you with us? No, he isn't. Perhaps he is. Anyway, Brother Imam, I will come back to you at the end of the program to give you closing remarks. So let's get started with our first speaker. Brother Jihad, who lives and works in Oakland, California. Brother Jihad, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
First of all, thank you for accepting to present to the community the work that you're doing. Why don't you briefly, because your bio, all the bios are on the Study Al-Islam newsletter, why don't you just briefly give some background on you and then go right into your presentation?
Okay, alhamdulillah. I came into Islam around 1991, straight out of the military. From there, went to school, majored in criminal justice and psychology, and pretty much just plugged myself into the local communities, especially at Masjid Wardeen in Oakland, as well as currently San Francisco with Imam Abu Qadir Al-Amin. Just always been excited to serve, and alhamdulillah. So you want me to move straight to the presentation?
Absolutely. We want to know about the great work you're doing in Oakland.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So let me. Okay, you guys see it?
Let us know if you need the technical person to help you.
Okay, I'm sharing screen right now.
Okay.
Okay, you guys should see my screen.
It hasn't started yet. Okay, here we go. Perfect.
You got it?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Shadu an la ilaha illa wahdahu la sharika la wa shadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, I'm Jihad Mustafa. We have a slew of programs, but they all kind of fall under the umbrella of Save Our Sons. And I'm going to try my best to make sense of it, but at least you guys, have a clear understanding of what we're doing. And inshallah, maybe able to garner some support, and maybe like-minded folks would like to replicate similar programs where they are. So Save Our Sons is basically a nonprofit under Changes Come. And like I said, there are several programs. We're going to start with the Surah in the Quran that kind of denotes what the problem that we're facing is regarding to Musa when he was dealing with the Pharaoh. And the eminent among the people of Pharaoh said, will you leave Moses and his people to cause corruption in the land and abandon your gods? Pharaoh said, we will kill their sons and keep their women alive. And indeed, we are subjugators over them. SOS is not a solitary program, but a group of programs. Most of our community level issues are caused by males. When we start looking at drugs, when we're looking at violence, when we're looking at mass incarceration, the core of it is the target of the Black male. We're not traveling in a positive trajectory. We can take a few of our hopeful folks that are doing good works and look at them and shine the light on them and pretend like we're doing well, but all those who see what's happening in our community knows we are not doing well. There's been a lot of, since the civil rights movement, a lot of progress was made. And then in the 70s with the whole disco movement and other things that were purposely placed in front of us to divert our attention, and gangbanging here in California, as well as the rest of the nation later on, to derail the gains that we made before. So the idea that we have to understand is that we're still a problem. This is still in existence. It never went away, because our leadership with Imam Warthi Muhammad Rahimahullah could be looked at as if it softened, as opposed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There is no less authorities and whatnot who don't want to see us succeed. And for whatever reason, that's between them and their soul, but it's a fact. Racial disparities and men's imprisonment persists across all ages. Same things that we've been saying, it hasn't changed. The whole point in this short segment is just to show that things have not changed. More Black men in prison, although we don't represent the majority of the population of males, we represent the majority in the prisons still. State policy drives mass incarceration. The federal prison system does not grow like the state. Federal crimes are usually those who are white collar sorts, and the percentage of those who are non-Black get caught up in that a lot more. But when it comes to violence, drug convictions, and this sort of thing, those are state policies, and those are state adjudicated at the state level. Non-criminal or technical violations are the main reason for incarceration. This is probably the most important slide regarding this part. When someone does a crime and they're convicted of that crime and they're on probation or parole, the majority of those who go back to jail, it's a violation of probation or parole, but not necessarily a crime. That's what they call a technical offense. You didn't report and you didn't do this at that time, and you got stopped. And although nothing was on you, it was on the other party, and therefore we're putting you, back, sending you back to jail. So what we have, one of the programs that we have is called Kawamun, and it's really to rebuild the infrastructure necessary for our boys and young men to thrive and protect them and insulate them from the greater community, which has been very poisonous, especially here in Oakland. It's riddled with violence on a daily basis, drug use, etc. So Kawamun really derived from the Quran, and we break it down and we call 3P: praying, protecting, provider. All of these elements being talked about in An-Nisa in the Quran regarding what a man is supposed to be. At his very base, a protector and provider and a prayerful man, inshallah. We did a Cow Moon retreat this year, and we're annualizing it. It was a 3-day retreat in Merced, California. We had several activities, and the whole idea was that the retreat was surrounded around activities that young men and boys would love, and not, so you don't have to push them or pull them there. They want to come, and through that, using that as the medium or vessel to educate them and train them in ways that they need to be educated and trained, but in a fun environment. We had ATVs there that they rode. They loved that. We had archery, and it was taught by a very an experienced and expert marksman as far as bow and arrow. We had slaughtering of a lamb, halaling the lamb. You see that on the slide in regards to the young. I'm showing them how to calm the animal before you halal him, so that it's done in the proper context and whatnot. So we did a class on that as well. We did a class on janazah preparations with Sheikh Abdul Rauf, doing a wonderful job with the full-size dummy, so to speak. Alhamdulillah. We had horseback riding. We had various activities that brought us together while we lived on the land, and we were able to have our young men and boys in our audience captive to us. What we have to realize is that with most Islamic centers and masjids being open for Jum'ah and maybe Salat during the week, if that, we may have an hour or two that we give to Islam, to our community, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a communal basis. But in the reality, the other 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week is going towards the super culture and the promulgation of the filth and corruption that goes on in the media, as they're taking our kids one by one. Our children know things that they would never have known just a few years ago at a very early age, because they seem to want to get them as young as possible. And the problem is, back in the day, so to speak, we had a very healthy understanding that we weren't liked and we had enemies. And so we were always trying to figure out what they were doing to us for us to properly respond to what's happening. The issue now is there's very little response as they bring in new tactics to take us out. There's several things that just weren't there before. I want to go to one slide here. Go back. When we're talking about destroying the man and leaving the woman, we see in America that our Black sisters have much more access to the corporate world than we do. We're the no. This is the planet of the Pharaoh. America loves the pharaohs, with the obelisk right there in DC and whatnot. And the idea is the feminization of our men, to create much more of a homosexual culture within Black males, hyperviolence, hypersexuality, minimization of values and resources for them to succeed. And all this produced with the aid of drugs, police, and media. The drug use, I deal with young men all the time and boys, and I saw this come in and would reach out to the community, and it's like we forgot, the whole teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the first resurrection, because I'm dealing with this. I had a meeting about education and trying to get educators together here so we can have a tool to get away from this stuff when I saw it coming. And, it seems like I was fighting a tidal wave that hey, we forgot that we're the enemy. So a lot of these young boys now, young men, drugs are way, way, way more prevalent. It's unprecedented. It used to be that only a few use anything other than weed. Now opioids, there's drug overdoses and all sorts of things that are happening. And there's an opioid crisis. And yes, Black boys and young men are right within that same demographic. And it's very sad because even as non-Muslims, we weren't as apt to use drugs outside of, say, weed. And if someone was on something else, crack in the 80s and before that, heroin, that was a druggie. That was the small percentage of the population that nobody wanted to deal with and, you know, make jokes about and all of that. So it is very prevalent. We don't have we may have some local things we're working on, but again, me reaching out to brothers and sisters all over, we don't have a national answer to these things, but these are national problems. And at the end of the day, when we say, well, jihad, you're always working on the boys and the men, well, the sisters, well, you know what? If that man or boy marries your daughter, this community is going to go down, down, down. The idea is that we produce men that can take care of a wife and children and do so honorably. So therefore, when you're dealing with the men, you're dealing with the children, you're dealing with the women as well, so that they have a suitable mate when it's time to marry. And then we don't have to worry about that sister being on her own, even though she's married, which has been a big problem pretty much since the transition, as we haven't been as disciplined as we were and left to our own device as far as freedom of movement without a supervision and management. So alhamdulillah on this. Yes,
Brother
ma'am.
Jihad, in the last 3 minutes, I want to give you 3 minutes. In the last 3 minutes, I know you said that SOS is an umbrella organization. Can you share with us just quickly some of the other programs under SOS?
Well, we have Kawamoon is the retreat and the events that we do. Muslim Town Hall is a part of that, because Changes Comes actually the umbrella, and then SOS is dealing with the boys and men. Muslim Town Hall, which we do once a month at the end of the month. Last Sunday, Amir Rashad, actually, who's on here, is the moderator. I'm the convener. Alhamdulillah. We have Young Lions, which is a program for, again, boys and young men who, giving them an opportunity to use martial arts to take out some of the aggression and whatnot and discipline them, as well as Muslima Flies. It's something my wife does, and we support and push for Muslim girls and young ladies, or ladies, period, women, Muslim women, to come together and be able to come together and discuss, female issues with men not around.
Let me be more specific then, because everything that you have said is so extremely important and needed nationally, just like you said. So are there any programs that you do virtually that young men in our national community or outside of our community can participate in? And if so, tell us what that is. And then if you can put that in the chat box, and then we can at least have that information. Mm-hmm.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you for clarifying. The only thing that most of the stuff we do is hands-on. But one thing that we could Zoom is Sundays when we meet with the young men and boys and counsel them. That's something that could be more so of a Zoom. We've been doing it locally and in person and dealing with them in that manner, but that is definitely something that could be Zoom if there was interest from other folks.
There's always interest, Brother Jihad. And I would like to encourage you, first of all, to put your information in chat so the community can follow up on their interest. But there's always an interest in programs virtually for young men and women, but in your particular case, for young men. So I want to encourage you to make that available to our national community.
Will do. Not a problem. I'd be honored.
Okay. So in this last moment, why don't you just kind of sum up and tell people how they can reach out to you?
Well, basically, I can go in the chat and leave my email address and phone number, and you can call me direct or email.
And just so everyone knows that next week, again, I want to announce that this recording will be in the newsletter, Brother Jihad, so people can read your slide, our presentation in more details.
Okay.
But again, I want to encourage you, because I hear from sisters all the time asking if there's programs for young men that their sons can participate in. So I want to encourage you. We do have the Boy Scouts at Masjid Muhammad, but I want to encourage you to make, if you can, to make your program available to our national community.
Yes, ma'am, we'll do. I think that's an excellent idea.
And thank you for your work, and we'll come back to you. I want to know, Brother Amir, are you with us and ready? Brother Jihad, if you can take your slide presentation down, we can then welcome Brother Amir. Brother Amir is from Richmond, California.
Yes.
And you work closely with Jihad, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you so much.
So why don't you briefly share with the audience a little bit about yourself and then go right into your presentation.
My name is Amir Rashad. I, in 1992, in college, became Muslim. I was sort of a high school All-American basketball player, went off to the University of Washington, and then encountered some racism with a coach, was kicked off the team, put back on the team. It was a big story in 1992 with Lynn Nance and Amir Rashad, or Quinn Youngblood, then I became Muslim Amir Rashad. The coach was later fired. I was put back on the team as Amir Rashad. And this is where I sort of took off with my mission of inspiring youth, inspiring people. After college, I went overseas. I played professional ball a little bit in Germany, Indonesia, and Brazil. Then I came back and I was a business major. I was in corporate. And then I said, well, I substitute talk for a couple of days. And from the first day I was a teacher of math and history, I never looked back. I've been teaching since 1999 in the inner city, private schools, a few times Muslim schools. I also coached basketball, about 10 years experience at coaching high school basketball, and another 4 years starting to lead in Saudi Arabia, a basketball league of sports, basketball, and not just only basketball, it's like about 6 different sports for 4 years in Saudi Arabia, and then came back. When I came back, and then the COVID started to hit, and then parents were sort of depressed, Muslim kids were depressed. So my son and I said, we had always had this idea of starting a Muslim basketball team. And we just went to the park one day, me, him, we invited another friend, one of his friends, and I just started training. And I said, look, let's do this called Dean in Basketball. So we started putting that out to the community that we're gonna have, because a lot of kids like basketball and other sports to attract the students. And what it was is a lot of the kids were depressed, they hadn't left the house. We know the COVID issue. And when, parents just started, students one after another, and we're up to around 30 kids, much more when we do our camps, but just solid students and stuff like that, which I share. But it just was a great thing for the community because parents start to get involved. They also were letting me know that they were depressed, and they're looking at their children depressed, also depressed them. So they were saying, this is a great thing that our children can get out and we can actually align with our kids. And one thing about being in basketball is that it's a community event where parents come out to the practices. And I saw so many, just the light came on when we had one of our practices, and parents would stay around the practice. And one brother hadn't seen another brother in years, and he almost started crying and hugged him. And I realized that, man, our community we're not getting together. What's going to pull is our children. And we mainly focus on boys, although we do as girls as well. We do train and stuff like that. So we call it Dean in Basketball, and the Dean team is an AAU. So we do all of the serious basketball training, trying to get our kids that elementary level all the way to high school, so they can and into college. We have preparation of tutoring and so on and so forth to get them there. But it was just it's a start. It's the second year. This would be the third year. The first couple of years was just so this would be the first full year that we're going to be really recruiting, really getting out there, hiring coaches, and we want to make it national because we want I want to link. My vision is to link all of the Muslims. Well, and there's also non-Muslims that play with us too, but it's majority Muslim. To link all of them up nationally, we can have national teams to compete on a high level, and we can connect our coaches. We can do Zoom seminars, which I'll be sending out later about our youth, and it'll be a Zoom and connecting because we're doing so many things nationally, but we're all individual. So it's very important that we connect as well. So what the program is called Dean in Basketball. And then the website is deaninbasketball.org, where you can find all of the information. And I'll do a few things on the slides.
Thank you, Brother Amir. This is exciting. I'm hoping that you're identifying some housing so that the community members who want to send their young boys to your summer camp, your basketball summer camp, will be able to do that. I know in Atlanta, while I'm only talking while you're getting your slide screen up, so please continue to get your slide screen up. But in Atlanta, I know that people that, the community members that wanted to send their young son or daughter to the Atlanta school, they had to find housing. So I want to encourage you to find Muslim families that are willing to take in some of our students for a period of time over the summer in order to attend your camp. It sounds amazing.
The Dean of Basketball, so it's a community-based Muslim basketball, although we do invite the community, others in the community. There we started, this was just a picture of some of the beginning players that we went to a local park that was sort of abandoned. No one was going out there. And then, so this is, we do every Sunday, and we call it fundamentals, fun, and friendship. So the fundamentals of the Dean, the fundamentals of basketball, going to a higher level, but at the same time, we have fun and we have friendship. We want our boys and our young women to grow up with a community, and it's nothing like being a part of a team, which you call the Dean team. So we represent the Dean, and it's just a wonderful thing as well. This is just part of something on the website.
Do you have any? So let me ask you:
Okay,
is this an actual program that if another city wanted to start a Dean and basketball, would you be able to help them to coordinate that?
Yes,
Okay,
and that's in the works. We have a whole curriculum and program. I was just sharing, because of the lack of time, sharing some of it. So this is, so we do have a program where we can. I do training, I do clinics. So to be able to answer your question, yes, we can set up the whole program, because it from A to Z. It's a whole thing that we do as well. This is just a few. Go ahead, sister, please. You're going to say something?
Please, no, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so just real quick, I know that the time. Again, I'm just going to do some slides really quick. A lot of stuff is on our website. You can contact me, but this is a replicable program where you can start, you can pick it up, and you can go A to Z, all of the from the basketball to the training to the surahs that we learn, to the Islam that we learn inside each practice as well. So these are just some of the things we started off with in AAU, getting beat by 30, 25 points. Parents are upset, but I told them it'd be greater later. And then we go with the stories. Every time we do the hadiths, the stories of the Prophet, the stories of our local Muslims, and then we end up winning the championship. So it was just a really beautiful thing that our kids, and you don't have to have any basketball. We want people who don't know how to play basketball, because it's just with the team. So it's a really, so we have a few things. We do have math and basketball, and we homework help, free basketball training, and competitive team games. So we do have all of these programs within our, so once you come in, you're gonna have, I teach a lot of skills, math, science within every practice. You know, then we work on academics because they're student athletes. We have free basketball training for all the people in the community. And then we have a competitive dean of basketball with competitive teams. We do have a free girls camp as well, boys and girls. We have camps in the spring and the summer to teach our girls different skills, dealing and going with the same thing as well. And then here's some of our age groups right now. So we have our AU competitive basketball dean team, which is called. We start early as 5, all the way up to high school, and then we do college preparation to follow them through college. We want to get our boys, those who wants to play basketball, especially high school, because we're losing them from 8th grade into 9th grade. But if they can make the basketball team in high school, then they're also not only representing the dean, but also they have a team that they're used to, and it keeps them out of trouble. And then we can track them and get them as far as college preparation, SAT prep. So we follow them all the way through. All the boys are followed, and even they have to have grades, you know, and so on and so forth. So this is like 10U, we call it 10 and under, 12 and under, in our 16 and under teams. These are other ways. I'll come back to that slide later. So critical thinking is really big that we teach. So we building self-confidence, maintaining your self-identity, knowing who you are as a Black man. Not all the kids are Black, but knowing who you are, especially our young boys in the inner city, and knowing your dean. You know, so we refute in this. Kids are learning surahs. You know, one of the students' parent came up to me and said, "Thank you for teaching my son."
So let me ask you, Brother Amir, how can we donate? So let me ask this question first. So is this a part of SOS? Is this one of the programs a part of SOS?
Yeah, it's definitely, it didn't start off as SOS, but we, Jihad and R, have combined all of our programs together, and we work together as a tandem, and as a team. So under this, it has a separate entity. Obviously, it has a one website, but we're connected as a community, him and I, to put this with SOS, Dean and basketball, right, and our other programs together. Yes. But
we're all working towards the same goals, and that's providing good programming and participation for our young people. Yes. So, Brother Amir, before we move on, could you please put in the chat where we can donate? And Jihad, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, because a program like this is worthy of donations. I mean, the work that both of you are doing with our young people, I'm sure that the community would like to donate. And of course, any donation is appreciated. And I want to encourage everyone on the line to at least donate $10 to the program so that they can further do great work. So, Brother Amir, in light of time, we're going to move to Sister Matala.
Okay, thank you.
I do want you to put in the chat where you can receive donations, and Brother Jihad, the same with you, where you can receive donations. But we're going to come back to the both of you after Sister Amatullah gives her presentation. We'll come back to you for last words. Sister Amatullah. So Brother Amir, if I can get you, excellent, thank you. So Sister Amatullah, are you with us? Sister Amatullah Sabri, how are you from Oakland, California?
I'm doing good.
Native of New York. I made sure I remember that.
Okay, New York native, that's right.
So Sister Amatullah, tell us what you're doing in Oakland.
I retired from working on the UC Berkeley campus. And I told people when I retired that I was going to be looking at Netflix and enjoying myself. I have a lifelong dream of becoming a filmmaker, but I have not really taken all of the steps that I need to do that. But I got involved with like-minded people for social justice and the recognition of one humanity. So that was the end of my retirement. And so I'm back at trying to do what I can in terms of helping out in our mission. Can you hear me?
Yes, please move right into your presentation so we can learn about the good work you're doing.
All right, inshallah. I am part of a group. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Let me.
As you are trying to pull your screen up, I just want to say to everyone on the line, there's about 175, 80 people on the line. Please note that this is just a glimpse of what these organizations are doing. Time will not permit us to go into more details. So contact them and learn more about what they're doing and duplicate the great programs that they're doing in your city. Work together. Let's build these bridges and collaborations. Please go ahead, Sister Amatullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Like-minded people for social justice and the recognition of one humanity. It's a long name. Here's a list of our founding committee members. One of my partners told me, don't worry about telling all of our names. People will get that later. So I'm going to go right into what is our purpose. Our mission statement is to work for the recognition of our creation from Allah, God, the only element that is common in us all, our humanity. This organization came together in 2020, shortly after the worldwide response to the George Floyd murder by the police officer there in Minnesota. So that social unrest did not sit well with many of the board members that we have now. And there was an article in the Muslim Journal in June 12th of 2020, Imam Makram El Amin, who works with El Maun in Minnesota, calling for Muslims to be more in the lead for law enforcement accountability. Also, July 10th, Brother Mubashir Uqdar in Muslim Journal again, brought the idea forward of how to bring trade into the national conversation. The National Conveners of Imam felt that the Muslim Journal article, Beauty and the Beast, outlines for us today what we see America's posture is, especially how it relates to us as African Americans. But in that article, Brother Uqdar did pose the question of, should CRADE, the Committee to Remove All Images that attempt to portray the divine, is this a time when we should use CRADE to combat white supremacy? For those who don't know, who may not have been in the community in the late 70s, early 80s, this committee was set up, and many of us who have become a part of like-minded people, we were active in that CRADE movement. And in that CRADE movement, we had signs, and sometimes we would go and sort of march around churches, or we would march at intersections, hand out flyers to really bring to the awareness of our people of the harmful effects of images and the oppressive effects of images in religion. This article from Muslim Journal, May 27th, 1983, the Imam was answering some questions about the trade movement and what we were doing and the reason why we were doing it. And he did state, I don't like the idea of marching around the church because that's not what we are about. We are really moving in the spirit of friendship and in the spirit of great respect for Christian ideals. So we're not proposing that we need to march in 2022. We want to use, as Allah tells us in the Quran, use the most beautiful language in the arguments that we put forth to people. But we want to just remind our Christians and other faiths too, brothers and sisters, that there is a definite and a scientifically proven harmful effect of these racial images. And I encourage people, if you can, go back and read that Muslim Journal article from May 27, 1983, and you can get it off of New Africa Radio. They have an archive of many of the Imam's articles, and that one is there, and also on our website we'll have that. In one part of that article, the Imam says the transition from that idolatry to Christianity brought along with it the old customs and habits of the pre-Christian people. So he goes on to say that this is disrespectful of our intellect, that people are more sophisticated now, and we don't need that anymore to bring us to our souls and to bring us to faith. One leader that seems to have gotten that idea is the Archbishop of Canterbury, says the portrayal of Jesus as white should be reconsidered. So there's some hope on that front. Also on our website, we have a video and an article from Stanford News of a research psychologist, Stephen O. Roberts. He did an experiment where they had children to come in. Well, actually, he went to their churches, and they asked them to represent God, to give their interpretation of God. And so, you have all of these crayon kind of drawings of God and whatnot. And by and far, also, he did a test. Most people, when they think of God, they think of Caucasian images. Maybe about, I think he said 83%, but there was 6%, I believe was the figure, that thought of Morgan Freeman. So we're not suggesting switch out a Caucasian image for a Bilalian or an African-American image. But it shows that there is an impact, and he took it to the corporate world when they would ask workers, who do they think should be in charge? Who should their supervisors be? And overwhelmingly, people saw that Caucasians should be in charge. And he took this back to the images of the divine that people are given. Also on YouTube and on one of the resources in our on our website, we have a couple of the doll tests. The doll test was a famous sociological test that Dr. Clark and his wife did. And it shows how racial bias through the use of dolls affect young children. Imam Muhammad in that article of May 27 said, we appreciate the Prayer Committee, the work that they are doing, and we see them as really making a great contribution. And our premise is that today in 2022, we can also make a great contribution. In our desire to move forward in sort of like a CRADE 2.0 or CRADE in the 21st century, we began to forge relationships with other believers. One brother in Carbondale, Illinois, is Brother Henry S. Muhammad, and I have a picture here of his book, What Every Parent Should Know About the Worship of Human Imagery in Religion in Their Child's Mental Health. Excellent book. Very good read, and I encourage everyone to get it. One of our originally founding committee members, Imam Ayman Abdul Mujib Rahimullah Alayh, first introduced Brother Henry to us, and his book, Imam Ayman was distributing his book here in the West Coast area. This is their website, the Center for the Cure of Mental Disease.com, and I encourage people to go to that website. And there they're documenting, they have a billboard that they have in Carterville, Illinois, with 6 million impressions thus far. They've had it almost 2 years of that says, remove all images from worship. And so people are driving and they see this day in and day out, And so this is a very good way to reach people. And as he said, and he's also devised a mobile system of signs that you can put together and display. He did, when the weather was good, of course, being in the Midwest, it's not like sunny California by any means, but they would go, if people are familiar with Chicago, he would drive, I think he's 3.5 hours out of Chicago. They would drive to Chicago, and there at State Street, which is the dividing line between East and West in Chicago, they would hand out flyers, they would put their mobile signs up, and they've had a very good response from people over the last 2 years. Our relationships continue. Imam Ayman, again, he introduced us to a young sister from New Jersey, Sister Yamna Naja Carter, who's a filmmaker. She and her brother, they have been documenting and interviewing pioneers who were part of the Brave movement of the 80s, and also other pioneers of Imam W.D. Muhammad's Association. And some of the members of our committee have participated in this interviewing process, and we plan, inshallah, they're in the editing stage now, when they complete the project, to support them. Like-minded people, we have said that we will support them in any way we can to promote and distribute the finished product. You can contact Sister Yamna at cleanglassmedia@gmail.com. We thank Allah for her work. We have a special project that I wanted to announce. Imam Ayman, we've determined to set up a scholars fund in his memory. So if you go to our website, you can make a donation via Cash App or through Zelle. Our treasurer, Sister Aliyah Akbar, this is her email address that you can use to make that donation. And we will be continuing with, let me go back to that. I should give you more information on this Scholars Fund. What do we plan? We plan to be able to give 2 scholarships every semester, one for a male, one for a female, for those who are going into higher education. Also to give money for those who are going to trade schools if they have a need for, sometimes they have to pay union dues, or they have tools or special equipment that they need in a trade, and also to give incentive gifts to high schoolers who are able to graduate from high school, and also to be able to support the Islamic Leadership Training and Development Program that was sponsored by the conveners of Imam. What are the next steps? So we are in the process, or we will shortly be in the process of ascertaining how many people are really interested, seriously interested in reactivating the parade movement here on the West Coast as well as throughout the nation. So if you are, you should give us send us an email, info@lmpforsocialjustice.org. And we're going to also have future engagement with and assessment of the level of interest with some of the allies that we have developed in the in the faith-based communities and community organizations. So we as a group decided to move forward with the trade movement. And then in 2020, there was a really strong uptick of murders of young rappers. And so we had a small subcommittee of our group to do some research in that area. And we determined that there is, through studies that have been done through public health agencies, sociologists, psychologists, that there is a public health crisis that has emerged in our communities. Recently, one rapper described it as digital crack. The population of young hip hop musicians who have been killed by murder, over 51.5% of them. We hear of the high profile rappers like Nipsey Hussle was one just recently. Forgive me if I say it wrong. I think it was Takeoff of his name. Sometimes I get all of the rappers mixed up. But this information that you see on the screen was taken from Raptology, which is a website that provides information on the hip hop community. So when our small group went back and we looked at what was happening in our communities, we said, okay, another area that we should combine with trade, because we see them really connected. These are deliberate efforts to destroy our community. You have it in the religious sphere and you have it in the social, cultural sphere. So we formed a coalition with faith-based community leaders to combat what we identified as dangerous lyrics. We hosted a series of Zoom gatherings to discuss the crisis in our community and hopefully to ignite a movement. More recently, within the last 4 or 5 months, we decided to rebrand our internal effort within the Islamic community, particularly the community associated with Imam Muhammad, to rebrand our efforts with SPICE, because we do not want the young people in our community to feel, who are into hip hop or who are into spoken word, to feel that we are condemning them. No, we are condemning the record label executives, the radio stations, the online platforms that promote the negative content. And we know that there are many positive artists, many in our community and in the broader community, who don't get the kind of exposure. So we want to work to try and develop and to help those who are developing platforms that will support positive messages in the community. When Imam Muhammad first came in, many of us who were around, you'll remember he promoted Reuben Khatib, We Want Our Life Back. But we want our life back now in 2022. Images came out of the Balalian cultural expression out of LA with Wali Ali. The Images song, which developed from a poem that Sister Adiba Sabreen had written. So we decided to rebrand ourselves for our internal efforts. Our Christian brothers and sisters, their gospel music is well established and they have platforms and everything. We want to establish the platforms for continue our cultural expression. So our efforts will be called SPICE, Supporting Positive Imagery in Cultural Expression, spoken word, rap, film production, all kinds of cultural expression. And we realized that this is a big task. And one of our counselors, Brother Khalid Shah from LA, who's been working in the anti-violence space for decades, he reminded us that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we're prepared to engage in the marathon.
Sister Matala, we're coming to the end of the program. So after this slide, or if there's another one that you want to show, we really need to conclude at this point. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what I want some announcements to let people know what's happening. We also are trying to collaborate with as many platforms as we can. Later today on AM 360, we'll be sponsoring a town hall on civic engagement. And you can go to the AM 360 site or the Zoom. The meeting ID is 850. I will put this information in the chat, but
That's
that will
good.
be from 3
Absolutely.
to 5 Eastern time. Also, I wanted to say that this is very important. Brother Umar Hakeem Dave from Southern California has worked very hard with the impact to develop a congressional leadership development program that includes the participation of youth from our community. So if you have college level students who are interested in working in DC, please contact Brother Umar Hakeem Day to get more information. We only have 2 more weeks to get applications in, and it's free for the application. So please participate in that. Another thing is Brother Kachebe, who we have been in contact with about developing these programs for the positive artists in our community. This Friday, the 25th of November, he's having a Facebook Live virtual concert from 7 to 8 p.m. So we encourage people to participate in that. You can go to Eventbrite to purchase tickets. So again, go to our website, like mine, lmpforsocialjustice.org. You'll get more information about us. And our contact information is on this slide. If you want to buy the book by Brother Muhammad, send an email to info@lmpforsocialjustice, and we'll tell you how to get the book.
My suggestion is that you put all of that in the chat, Sister Matala, because that would help those who want to contact you or purchase the book. That'll make it an easy way for them to do that. So we're really at the end of the program. Amir, Brother Amir and Brother Jihad, I'm going to ask you to text me where to donate to your program. And I want to encourage everyone on the line. You can reach me and I can send you the information, or you can take it off of the chat. Please donate at least $10 to these groups. They're doing such great work, and we know our young boys and young girls need the kind of exchange and dialogue and participation activities that they are providing. So I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. We know that this limited time that we give you doesn't do justice, but this at least gives the community a glimpse into your work. Otherwise, they would not know, because one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing many times because of the distance between us. So put your information in the chat for people to contact you. I will be contacting you and sending you my donation in order to help further the work that each of you are doing. So we're going to bring this to an end. I just want to remind you that the newsletter, the Study Al-Islam newsletter, went out this morning. You can listen to the recording from last week, which was an excellent presentation on building organizational capacity through external fundraising and grant writing. Brother Amir and Jihad, I really suggest that you listen to that, because the two sisters that put the presentation on are experienced fundraisers and grant writers, and they did an excellent job of that. And also to contact them in order to help you to plug into those grants that are available to organizations that is achieving the kind of work that you're achieving, as well as you, Sister Amatullah. I'm not leaving you out with the great work that you're doing. If you would like to receive a copy of the newsletter, because you're not, please visit studyalislam.com and subscribe. Also, in the newsletter, you can order the DVD conference on the leadership of Imam Waduddin Muhammad. It is out, it is amazing, and every family should have a copy in their home. So until next week, remember, with love, patience, and faith, all things are possible. Be safe and happy, your sister and friend. And if Imam Mikhail Shabazz from Portland, if you would close us in prayer, I just want to say to everyone, have a safe week. have a safe life, and continue the good work that you're doing. Brother Imam?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Oh Allah, if what we have discussed and decided and are participating in is good for us in the way of our religion, our livelihoods, our life here and our life hereafter, then bless us in it and bless us with it. We put our trust in you, for you have knowledge and power over all things. Oh Allah, if what we have discussed and decided and are participating in is not good for us in the way of our religions, our livelihoods, our life here and our life hereafter, then turn us away from it and turn it away from us and give us that which is better. We put our trust in you, for you have knowledge and power over all things. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasuluh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, Brother Imam. It's always so nice to see you. Please extend our warm salams to your family and the community. And I just want to end by saying, if we're not serving God, then we are a servant of Satan. It's one or the other. There's no in between. So until next week, be safe. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Wa
assalam.
alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Beautiful.